Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us in today's video. If this is your first time tuning in, we're Ben and Jelaine with Nomadic Visuals, and today's video is on furring.
Furring is kind of similar to the framing in your house, so everything that we put on the walls, the ceiling, anything that we attach actually gets attached to the furring.
Without further ado, let's get to it. We're working on some furring right now. We're probably not doing it the most efficient way ever, but I think this way is going to work out best for us. We're actually just doing it one section at a time. We went ahead and did our shower. Now we're working on a cabinet section. We're doing it that way to ensure we can maximize the space available. So hopefully this works out for us. Jelaine and I are both so tall that we're just going to make the furring strips flush with this piece rather than screwing up into it like most people do. We're really trying to maintain as much headspace as possible since Promasters are so short. So hopefully that'll work out for us and we'll have a little bit more headroom. Probably like a million different ways that you can do this, but the way we did it was just marked out our piece, drilled holes where the bolts are going, use these T-nuts once again, sink those down into the holes, and then we run these bolts from the back side of the channel in, and then we'll actually be mounting a L bracket of aluminum to these bolts once they're sticking out like this. And that's what our bed will be attached to. Just barely have got them all started from the back side. It's still pretty wabi-sabi, but we'll be putting a little bit of Loctite on there because it is a real booger to access that area once everything's in. We already screwed up one board and I had to cut the bolts off with a Sawzall, so learn from that. We finally figured out the furring situation where our bed's going to go. A lot of people just run their furring along this on the top and the bottom, and then you actually lose this space right here. So Jelaine and I are both a little bit tall, so we decided to take the furring all the way to the paneling. And that way we gain a few inches on the bed on both sides. We haven't done this side yet, but we're about to get to it. We're about to start working on the upper cabinet furring, which we'll be attaching right in this area, and what we'll do is just put a strip that comes out just flush with this piece, and that way we can maximize our space, and we'll be screwing into this rather than this, which I already tried that, but this will be saving us like 1.25 inches, and in a van build the inches certainly add up. This is actually a pretty funky size. It's really not a width of lumber that you can buy, so we'll be using our planer and planing a 2x4 down to 1.25. So as you know, 2x4s are 3.5 by 1.5, so we'll be planing the 1.5 side down to 1.25. For those of you that don't know, this is a wood planer. You just feed the wood right through here and pretty well just shaves it down to whatever size you want eventually. Luckily for us, we have to plug it right into our house because I misplaced our good extension cord and this thing trips the breaker every time we use our other one. Now that we have all of these attached, Jelaine is going through and putting tape on the back side of the screws, just in case we decide to run any more wires back that direction. The screws don't puncture or nick the wires, creating a short, because that would be a booger once everything's covered up. All right, this side's done. On to the next side. Oh yeah. We're finally working on the last little bit of furring. What we have left is this little spot right next to the bed. And oh, just going to like reset some switches in this area through here. So we went ahead and ran our wires through, and we'll probably do some type of like little shelf system we can store phones or something on and charge up right here. Maybe put a little bit of storage in this area. We hope you found value in this video. As always, it's time for our tips, tricks, fails, and the cost.
So there's definitely easier ways to install furring in the van. We wanted to maximize our space because we're so tall, and we wanted like custom layouts, and pretty much everything's custom for us.
We like to do things the hard way.
Definitely.
Every time. So a lot of people just run their furring completely horizontal or vertical and just close everything in. But as Jelaine mentioned, we're pretty tall, so if we did that, neither one of us would fit laying side to side, which is the orientation that we wanted our bed. So we decided to make a little recessed area where our bed is. That way it would give us about 2 inches extra on either side, so we just fit in that.
And one of the most essential tools that we used was the pocket hole jig. Definitely invest in one of those, makes life so much more easy.
Really reduces splitting boards from trying to toenail the screws in. And really, I would recommend doing everything with screws because you screw up so much, no pun intended, that it's really just makes things easier. That way you can just back a screw right out and you don't have to break out the Sawzall or a metal cutting blade to knock out any nails or anything of that sort. So I would definitely recommend using screws, the pocket hole jig, and other than that, if you don't do anything like super custom, furring is relatively straightforward. For once, we actually didn't make many fails. It was just really like a lot of noodle scratching just because of like the recessed storage we wanted to do, the recessed bed area. Other than that, it was not too terrible. It just was a lot more time consuming than we had expected it to be.
So the final cost of all the wood and the screws and everything was $151.65.
Thanks so much for joining us in today's video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.